Hey everyone, my name is Rob McLeod. I'm also known as Frisbee Rob or Ultimate Rob, and I just wanted to say hi. I was a speaker last year at the Brick by Brick conference, and I'm very excited to be a speaker again this year. So thank you, Sanji, for inviting me back. Last year I talked about how to improve your pull. This year I'm going to talk about the importance of throwing Frisbees outside of Ultimate. Okay, so a lot of people, the only time that they actually throw will be in a practice or a game for Ultimate, and that's it. And it's super important that we need to take a disc, take our Frisbee, and go practice when we're not playing Ultimate. That's really the best way and the only way that we're going to get better at throwing in a big way is to throw on our own, to throw with a friend. And there's many ways that you can do that, and I'm going to talk about some of those different ways. Okay, so the whole idea of throwing, it all comes down to building that muscle memory. Okay, so it comes down to repetitions. Takes time. Okay, there is a really good book by McLeod that talks about the 10,000 hour rule, which essentially says that if you work on a skill for 3 hours every single day for 10 years, you will be in the top 1% in the world. And so with the Frisbee, if I practice throwing a Frisbee 3 hours every day for 10 years, I'm going to be in the top 1% in the world of throwing. Okay, and in most likelihood even higher than that, because there's not a lot of people who would spend that much time practicing. Okay, the practice has to be deliberate. So if I'm playing catch with somebody and we're just having fun and playing catch, that's not really good quality practice. We really want to work on our skills and build each time we practice. We want to build on the skills from the last session. Okay, if you want to get really good at Frisbee, so let's say you want to be in the top 5%, it only takes 6 months. Okay, so you can get really good at throwing in a short period of time. But if you want to master throwing, if you want to become the best in the world, it's going to take you a very long time, which if you have the time and you have the passion, then by all means go for it. That's my goal. I want to be known as one of the best throwers in the world, so I have spent a lot of the last 15 years throwing Frisbees, okay? And I want to do even more this year. So it's not a matter of doing a lot of practice and then stopping. It's a matter of doing practice consistently, keeping going, okay? The better you get, the more fun it is, because who doesn't like to throw 2.5 football fields, which is how far I can throw. Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple things that you can do to get better at throwing outside of Ultimate, because for a lot of people, they don't know how to actually practice. Okay, so it's not a matter, like I said, of just going out and playing catch with somebody. Yes, you can improve that way, but there are, I think, better ways to improve, and that are more fun, because spending a couple hours a day practicing, if you're not having fun doing it, you're not going to keep doing it. And you're not going to want to keep doing it, and it's actually going to feel like work. Okay, so if we love playing Ultimate, we love throwing, we want to keep that fun in the game. We want to make sure that we keep love doing it. Okay, so there's times where I've taken a few months off. I haven't thrown every single day, and I think that's important, because sometimes you need to step away from something you love to realize how much you actually do love it and miss it. Okay, so with Frisbee, it's very important, I think, sometimes to take a break. Living in Canada, that's kind of a natural break because we have a winter. Sometimes it's just too cold to throw. And other times, you know, if you've been playing for 4 or 5 months pretty consistently, it's nice to take a break and do something else, okay? But yeah, for practice, you can definitely focus on spending a lot of time doing it. But I think, especially coming into the season, an important thing to do is to write down some goals and to say, okay, if I want to be the best thrower on my team, but I only have 20 minutes a day to dedicate to practice, well, what if somebody has an hour to dedicate to practice every day? Am I going to be as good of a thrower as they are? Probably not, because they have more time. Okay, so we really have to be realistic with our expectations. Not only will it help us feel better about ourselves and feel more accomplished with what we have done, but it's also going to help keep us engaged in the game, because if we go in thinking I want to be the best player on my team, and you practice once a week, well, that's not realistic, okay? So important to come up with some goals as far as throwing goes, as far as your playing goes in general. But especially with throwing, because you can throw without anybody else, okay? You can't play Ultimate unless you have 13 other people. So that's the nice thing about throwing, is we can go throw whenever we want. We just need a disc, okay? So a couple ways that I love to practice, and I actually made up my own throwing drills in the past, which is what I used to do. But Zen throwing and Kung Fu throwing are really fantastic throwing routines that have been developed. So Zen throwing was developed by Ben Wiggins, and Kung Fu throwing was developed by Lou Burris. Okay, I've done walkthrough videos on my YouTube channel showing you how to do those, and I will link in the description below so you can go check those out. So I think that's a great way to learn how to practice. Okay, there's Zen throwing has like 21 different exercises that you can do, different drills throwing. Kung Fu throwing only has about 4 or 5, so that's more for volume. Okay, so I find that with Kung Fu throwing, you're going to get more out of it in the beginning because you're doing all that volume, the throwing, very deliberate practice. But as you get better, Zen throwing is going to be, you're going to find it helps you more because it works on the finer details of throwing. So the better you get as a thrower, the less room there is to sort of improve, right? When you first start and you can only throw at 10 yards and all of a sudden you're throwing at 60, that's huge. But the better you get, going from 60 yards to 70 yards to maybe 75, so those windows become much less small. And so for me, for example, where I'm at, for me to improve my throwing, it sometimes just takes a fine little tweak because I've done that volume throwing, I have that consistency, I have the technique. And it's really important to do the volume throwing in the beginning so you can really work on your technique and have it nailed down for what your body type is. Okay, a lot of people don't throw enough, and so their throwing technique, it's kind of all over the place. And so doing a lot of throwing in the beginning of your playing career, when you're first starting, it'll really help out with that. Okay, so Kung Fu throwing and Zen throwing are 2 really good ways to get out and throw and work on your throwing. Okay, and like I said, I will link those in the description below so you can go check those out. Another way is to play other disc sports with an ultimate disc. Okay, so when I first started playing ultimate, I only threw an ultimate disc for about 10 years before I started throwing, as you can see, golf discs, these light Frisbees. Okay, so like I said, another way is to play other disc sports. So take an ultimate disc, go play disc golf. Work on MTAs, work on distance. So try different things. Okay, there's a really good website called Ageless Game, agelessgame.com. And it's an initiative by the World Flying Disc Federation that I'm working on. And essentially what it is a website that tells you the disc sports. So there's about 10 different disc sports and then Frisbee games. So it's if you and a friend and you have 2 Frisbees, there is a sport you can play with it. There's a game you can play, okay? So it's all about getting out because if we don't have 14 people, what can we play? Okay, if we have 4 people, we can play DDC. If we have 6 to 10 people, we can play guts. If we have 2 people, we can do freestyle. If it's just myself, I can do MTA. I'm sure a lot of you know MTA, maximum time loft. So you throw it in the air, you have to run and catch it, and it's about the total time in the air. You could also do what's called TRC, so throw, run, catch. So I throw the Frisbee, I run and I catch it, and it's from the spot where I threw it to where I catch it, we measure that distance. So TRC would be like trying to catch your own pull. Okay? MTA is not really going to be a good pull. You want it to be a lot higher in the air and come back to you, whereas a TRC, you want it to go for distance. Okay? So those are fantastic ways to practice throwing. I would say that I've gotten some of my most benefit from doing MTA and TRC because if you're not a very good thrower when you're throwing it up in the air, if you can't get the angle right, it's not going to come back to you, and it's going to be really frustrating because you're going to be throwing it and it's constantly going to be going in the ground. So you're going to really want to learn to throw it as flat as possible and really control that angle, so when you throw it, the Frisbee is going to come right back to you, okay? And it's a lot of fun, big feeling of accomplishment for sure, to be able to throw it and have the disc come back and to play around with the wind. Something that I've been saying for the last year, I guess, has become my slogan is, let the wind guide you. Okay, so when you're out there, depending on how strong the wind is, you're going to have to adjust your throw, especially in a tournament when we can't say, I don't want to play today, let's play tomorrow. If there's a lot of wind, you have to let the wind guide you. Okay, so we have to learn how to use the wind to our benefit instead of saying, I hate the wind, I hate the wind. Okay, so as the wind's blowing, you have to play around with the angles, figure out how to throw. So I will give you a couple quick tips, just that can help you throw, that not a lot of people really understand. So when I'm throwing a Frisbee, especially with an ultimate disc, which is what most of you are throwing. So as I throw an ultimate disc, if I'm right-handed, I throw backhand. That disc wants to actually turn over like this, okay? So we need to throw with inside out. In disc golf, we call that hyzer. Because as I throw with this edge, as I throw it harder and harder, it's going to actually turn up and flatten out. So As I throw, we don't want the disc to roll over. As the disc rolls over, it's just going to crash. Okay, and so sometimes you'll throw a huck and you see that happen. So really control the angle. We don't want to adjust nose to tail very much. We don't want to put it up like that, because what happens if you throw it like this, it's just going to go up in the air and stall out. Okay, so work on keeping that nose to tail flat and just adjust the side to side angle. Okay, same thing if you're left-handed, just adjust back and forth that way. Okay, so make sure to watch your throws when you're practicing. If a lot of your throws are ending up turned over like that, then when you throw next time, you just want to tilt it more that way. Okay, so just a very basic tip that'll help you throwing. Find somebody, find a friend, find a buddy that you like to hang out with that can go throw with you. These throwing routines will be a lot more fun with a person, and some of them are not possible with just one person. So it's really important to be able to have somebody that you can go do that with. Stuff like MTA, TRC, you can go do that on your own, but extremely, extremely important to practice and work on your throwing outside of Ultimate. If you look at it, we work on fitness outside of Ultimate, well, you better be working on throwing outside of Ultimate as well, okay? When you get in the top level games, it's not the fitness. I don't believe it's not the fitness that's going to win or lose the game. It's going to be your skills with a disc, okay? If you can go an entire tournament without dropping, that's huge, okay? So work on your catching, work on your throwing, work on your disc skills, and not only will you, but also your team will be much better off for it. So again, if you have any questions, frisbeerob.com or ultimaterob.com. And this has been about the importance of throwing outside of Ultimate. So I hope you have a good rest of your conference, and I hope to meet some of you someday. Thank you.